So how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Take a taxi. But as the old joke goes, practice, practice, practice. Practice, practice, practice. As you notice, it goes 3 times. Well, it's perfect, since in this video, I'm going to share a practice recipe that divides itself into 3 parts. I call it the 10, 15, 20. So here's how it works. When I start practicing, I practice first for 10 minutes. 10 minutes only. Needless to say, it's important to make sure that those are 10 minutes of total focus and engagement. And after that 10 minutes is up, I then put down the fiddle for 10 minutes. I don't touch it. However, this doesn't mean that it's automatically timed to jump back into watching Wimbledon or the Euros, no matter how much I want to. The important thing here is to keep my head focused on the music, on whatever I'm working on, whatever's on my plate. I take the time to stretch a bit if needed, perhaps even take a walk. But it's as if I'm continuing the practice session in my head. After this 10-minute break is up, I now do 15 minutes of fully focused, high-intensity practice. And after these 15 minutes, I then put down the fiddle for 5 minutes. And then after those 5 minutes are up, I guess you can sense the pattern here, I then practice for 20 minutes. So this is a specific way of mine to break down and make use of an hour. And there's a couple of reasons why it would be useful or beneficial. I mean, for one, I do this when, say, I've been recuperating after a taxing string of concerts, or even just trying to get back into rhythm or get back into shape after a lazy period. More often the latter. I find it also can be a great way to incrementally develop or redevelop a sense of discipline and the ability to focus for longer periods of time, for example. But the main reason why I would work this way is how I think that time and time again, this way of systematically balancing short bursts of work with breaks has a positive effect on my ability to quickly and efficiently internalize what I practice. So in the past, I've been talking quite a bit on this channel about what to do when practicing. That is specifically what happens in the practice session when the instrument is in your hands. Potential tips to increase efficiency and so on. But I haven't talked much about how to schedule practicing, in what way to organize your practice sessions during the day, with breaks included. I think this is an equally significant part of what makes up practice efficiency, and it actually took me longer to realize its potential importance. One of the questions musicians get asked most often is, of course, how much do you practice in a day? But I think a better question to ask is perhaps not how much time you practice in a day, but how many times you practice in a day. In other words, how many sessions of reasonable length separated by carefully allotted breaks away from the instrument. Throughout the day, almost all the time, I find myself naturally inclined to just think about or imagine or reminisce about the music I'm currently occupied with, perhaps even more so than the physical aspect of daily practice, which of course is necessary. But I have a strong inkling that the two, so physical and mental practice, if you will, complement each other in an essential way. No matter how much I practice in a session, I always find that something is immediately different the next time I pick up the fiddle after a subsequent break, given that I continue to occupy myself with the music in my mind during that break, of course. It's almost as if I would allow my mind and my body, though still engaged, to somewhat reset, to refresh themselves, to process what I just practiced, and even just to gain another perspective on things. The opportunity for this to happen encourages me to approach practicing with the mindset of constant experimentation, in the sense that I'm constantly thinking and rethinking And that is really what drives my objectives in practice. It definitely keeps things more interesting. And after all, it could very well be that many shorter sessions of practice with breaks in a day are more effective than just one very long session. All right. Hope that was interesting or thought-provoking, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.